Hey guys, thank you for being here for another video. If you are new to my channel, hi, my name is Casey and I upload every Wednesday. I cover cases of missing people whose stories aren't well known and haven't gotten the attention they deserve. Today's video is on Bianca Piper. Bianca Noel Piper was 13 years old and lived with her mother, Shannon Tanner, in the small rural town of Foley, Missouri. She was in the 8th grade at Winfield Middle School. She loved spending time outdoors. She loved animals, especially horses. She idolized Hilary Duff and Britney Spears. She loved the color purple, and she was quite the good artist. She really enjoyed drawing. Now, most of the time, Bianca appeared to be a normal teenager, doing normal teenage stuff, but she did have her share of difficulties. She suffered with ADHD and bipolar disorder. She had severe mood swings and would become aggressive at times and just really struggled with self-control when she was mad or upset about something. She did take medication for these issues daily, but when she didn't take them, she could suffer hallucinations and become disoriented, which I'm sure could be pretty scary. She did have to be hospitalized previously when there were issues with her medication and it needed to be changed or the doses adjusted. Bianca had been going to counseling since she was just 4 years old, and she was currently seeing a therapist specializing in mental health to help her with these issues. The therapist had suggested to Bianca's mother, Shannon, that when things got out of hand, when things just became too much for Bianca and her temper started flaring, it may be good for her to walk it out. The therapist suggested that Shannon drop Bianca off a ways from home and let her walk back to the house to get some of that angry energy out. On Thursday, March the 10th of 2005, Bianca was upset about having to do chores around the house. She didn't want to do the dishes, and her anger was building up. So she told her mother she wanted to take a walk like the therapist had suggested. They had tried this cool down method once before, and it had helped to calm her down. She had come back from the walk in a better mood. She was feeling better, and her mother says that they ended up having a great evening together. However, this time, she asked her mom to drop her off further from home than she had before. I guess the first time she had done it, Bianca felt the walk wasn't long enough. She got home too quickly, and she felt walking a longer distance would be more beneficial to her. So Shannon, Bianca's mother, agreed and drove Bianca out to McIntosh Hill Road, which is a gravel country road only about a mile from their house. There's a little bridge that goes over the creek there, so that's where Bianca got out of the vehicle. It was around 6 p.m. and it was March, so the sun was already starting to set. It would be getting dark soon, so Shannon gave Bianca a flashlight, said, "See you in a bit," and started heading home. Now, as Shannon started to drive away, she looked in her rearview mirror and she saw a random car driving by on one of the main roads, and I theorized she had a bit of mother's intuition here because she turned the car around and went back to Bianca and told her daughter something along the lines of, "Don't get in the car with anyone, be safe." Then she drove home to start cooking dinner. Now, when Shannon left Bianca there on McIntosh Hill Road, Bianca wasn't mad. She hadn't said anything hateful to her mother, and she didn't say anything about running away or indicate that she wouldn't be coming home. Now, Shannon expected Bianca to be back at the house in about 15 minutes or so, but Bianca didn't arrive. By 6:40, Shannon was back in her car, driving the route Bianca would have taken home. I'm sure she was expecting to see her daughter just kind of taking her time, kind of moseying along, but she didn't see Bianca anywhere. Shannon and her boyfriend, Jim Felt, went door to door asking others that lived along the road if they had seen Bianca or anything strange, but none of them had. After more searching and finding no sign of Bianca, Shannon returned home and called authorities around 7:30 p.m. Law enforcement immediately began searching for Bianca. They searched the property around the house and the surrounding areas where Bianca would have been walking. They were beginning to get very worried because it was now becoming very dark. The temperature was dropping to the low 30s, and I believe they even had some snowfall that night. Bianca had only been wearing a hoodie when her mother last saw her, so she was not dressed for the inclement weather, and also she did not have her medication with her, which is something she needed. Her mother was absolutely frantic, understandably. Try to imagine as a mother or as a parent, knowing your child is possibly out there in the dark alone, cold, hungry, possibly confused because they haven't had their medicine, and you're just stuck not knowing where they are or what could have happened. It really makes me sick to my stomach just thinking about it. The search did have to be called off because it was so dark out they couldn't see, but the search did resume early the following morning. Along with law enforcement, over 250 volunteers came out to aid in the search. Bianca's grandfather was also out searching, which had to be extremely difficult for him. They had people on foot as well as people on horseback and all-terrain vehicles looking everywhere. Search and rescue dogs were trying to track her. Helicopters and civil air patrol planes were conducting aerial searches. They had people checking the nearby creek. They found nothing. I did read that they didn't find any evidence that there had been a struggle on the road. I'm assuming what they mean by that is that they were looking for disturbances in the gravel, maybe signs that someone had been pulled, maybe dragged their feet, but they found nothing of that sort. The search for Bianca spanned over 250 square miles, and they found no sign of her, the clothing or shoes that she was wearing that night, or the flashlight she was carrying. Searchers did uncover 2 meth labs during the search, but they don't believe the drug operations had anything to do with her disappearance. I did try to find information on whether or not the sniffer dogs picked up on Bianca's scent anywhere in the area where she was last seen, but the only thing I could find was a comment by a poster on a Reddit thread that said her scent was tracked 150 yards down McIntosh Hill Road, then stopped. However, they did not post a link to credit the info, so I'm unsure if it is correct or where they got that bit of information, so take that with a grain of salt, I guess. I'm just really not sure. Bianca's family was questioned extensively, including her father, David Piper, who lived in Fredericktown, Missouri. Her mother, Shannon, took and passed a polygraph, as did other family members, and her family was eventually ruled out as having any involvement. They did also question registered sex offenders in Lincoln County and conducted searches of their homes. Flyers were passed out and posted all over, all the way up to Canada. For years after her disappearance, family and friends held up posters and passed out flyers at stop signs in Foley and the nearby town of Winfield. Bianca's mom did speak to a couple of psychics. One told her that Bianca had been picked up by someone in a van, and another told her that her daughter was no longer alive. Over 247 leads were followed. However, there were never any confirmed sightings of Bianca, and there has been no trace of her in almost 16 years. In 2007, 2 missing boys, Sean Hornbeck and William Ben Owenby, were found alive in the apartment of their abductor, a man named Michael Devlin. Investigators thought maybe Michael could have had some involvement in Bianca's disappearance and several other missing cases as well, but they couldn't find any evidence that he was responsible for any other abductions. Michael Devlin seemed to prefer to abduct young boys though, so I myself and authorities also don't believe that he was involved in Bianca's disappearance. Investigators also looked into a man named Paul Smith and whether he may have had something to do with Bianca's disappearance. Paul was a 38-year-old convicted sex offender who fatally shot himself in 2010 when he was approached by police after he abducted a 4-year-old girl named Elisa from her yard in Louisiana, Missouri, which is only about 25 miles from Foley, where Bianca vanished. Elisa luckily was safely returned to her family. If Paul knew anything about Bianca or had anything to do with her disappearance, he took that knowledge straight to hell with him. At least that's where I believe he went. A few months after Bianca went missing, her mother Shannon was charged with assault. Apparently she and her other daughter, who was 18 at the time and also possibly bipolar, got into an altercation and the daughter got some kind of injury. Shannon says she was just trying to keep her daughter from hurting herself. Police do not believe this incident is in any way related to Bianca's disappearance. In 2014, Bianca's sister Tiffany was charged with sex trafficking. This also is not believed to have anything to do with Bianca's case. I'm only even mentioning these things here because if you research the case, it does come up, and I figured someone would probably bring it up in the comments. Sadly, Bianca's father, David, passed away from a heart attack about 4 years after his daughter vanished, and it is believed that the stress of losing his daughter had a lot to do with it. I can only imagine how detrimental that type of heartache can be on your health and well-being. Bianca's mother, Shannon, stayed in her Foley home for a long time after Bianca's disappearance, but she did eventually move to St. Charles. Her mom has received some really harsh criticism for leaving her 13-year-old out there on that road all alone. There are some pretty terrible things written online, even some accusing her of harming her daughter. I'm sure she never dreamed something like this would happen, especially with them being so far away from well-traveled roads. She probably thought Bianca would be fine. I'm sure she regrets this decision to leave her, and I'm sure she has blamed and beat herself up more than anyone else ever could. Bianca has brown hair and brown eyes. At the time of her disappearance, she was 5 feet 6 inches tall and weighed 185 pounds. She was last seen wearing a gray Adidas hooded sweatshirt, blue jeans, and white tennis shoes with purple stripes, and she was carrying a flashlight. She would now be 29 years old. Since there was nothing found of her in the area she was last seen, they do believe this was an abduction or that foul play was involved. Bianca had no history of running away, so it isn't believed that she would have left on her own, and she was out in the middle of an extremely rural area. If she was planning on running away from there, there wasn't really anywhere for her to go on foot, and she didn't have any of her belongings with her, just that flashlight. Let me know in the comments what you think about this case. What happened to Bianca? Where did she go? Did she maybe miss a dose of her medication that day and get confused when walking home? Or did she purposely, out of spite, head to the woods to scare her mom and then get lost? Bianca and her mother had just moved to that area about 5 months prior, so maybe she got confused which way to go. If she had gotten disoriented or lost in the woods, then succumbed to the elements, it's likely, in my opinion, that they would have found her or some trace of her. The area they covered was huge. The fact that they found nothing leads me to believe she was picked up, and I lean towards it being someone local to the area, simply for the fact that this was a country road. It wasn't a main road a lot of random people traveled on. One of the people searching even mentioned that if you didn't know the area, you wouldn't even know McIntosh Hill existed. Could someone have stopped and offered her a ride and she accepted even though her mom had warned her not to? Did someone maybe see her mother drop her off and took this as an opportunity to grab a young girl who was all alone? Did Bianca stumble across one of the areas where people were cooking meth and someone was afraid she would say something? I hope someday her family gets all of these questions answered, and even more, I hope that Bianca is actually still out there alive somewhere and can be reunited with her family. Even though all these years have passed, her family nor police have ever given up the effort to find Bianca. They have held vigils and continue to pass out flyers in hopes that people will not forget her and that someday someone will speak up. If you have any information on Bianca's disappearance, no matter how insignificant you think it may be, please contact the Lincoln County Sheriff's Department at 636-528-8546. The Missing Bianca Piper Facebook page is linked below, as well as the link to her flyer. Please share that flyer, and please share this video if you think it will help. Don't let Bianca be forgotten. As always, I mean no harm in doing these videos. I am simply trying to spread awareness on the lesser known missing person cases that need more attention. I post videos like this one every Wednesday. Please check out my entire missing playlist, as all of the cases I cover need more exposure. Please hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and give this video a like so I know that these cases are being seen. I appreciate you all being here with me, and until next week, bye guys.